And so that was really fun too. But yeah, I'm kind of always making content, but I need it to be sort of, I don't know. I think it's more interesting for me to be doing this than like TikTok dances.
Yeah, but that's what's so interesting now with where comedy is part of when comedians start comedy now, part of it is, okay, not only how do I write a joke, how do I get stage time, how do I develop and get stage time as much as possible, it's also, how do I film this? You'll see comics at open mics with like a lav mic on, trying to get clips at a coffee shop at 5 p.m. So what is your perspective on when should comics start filming, or even just someone who's been in comedy as long as you have? What is your perspective on kind of the new state of comedy, if you will?
I think it really fucking sucks. I think it fucking sucks. See, I can't stop working. I'm still working. I think it fucking...
We're almost done.
Blows. No, we're okay. I just like, I was just saying like, that's me. It's like, I think of something, I'm going to do it. We got to realize, I realized as we're talking, we need the footage from the Norwegian tour manager that I just texted him before. So, just working, always working. I think it fucking sucks. It sucks that you have to be a videographer and editor in addition to a stand-up comedian and a writer and a performer and a social media manager, and you have to be posting consistently, and you have to read as much as you can about the algorithm, and you have to tape everything in the hopes that you get it. You have to learn how to do crowd work because you don't want to burn material that you're not ready to put online, and then that has really fucked it up for guys like me because all these people are trying to do crowd work and so many of them are bad at it. So there was just a little period where people sometimes would be like, do material. You know, that really happened only a few times, but that was indicative of the fact that people were like, enough with the crowd work comedians. But now, I'm not sure, but now most places I go, they know me. And I wouldn't say they expect that, but and then they come up afterwards, and all the time people are like, was that girl a plant? Like, did you put her there? Or how much of that was improvised? Was that all improvised? No way, right? And I go, yeah, it was. I mean, I did 3 jokes, I think, and they're like, I knew it. And then I told you, but she didn't believe me. She said you must have written all this and put the people where they were, and you'd seen the... And so I do get a lot of that because you just don't see people improvise as much as I do. And I see, for improvising instead of crowd work, I consider the audience a scene partner. So I'm improvising with the audience, talking to them, but also learning about them, talking to them a little bit. And so that's kind of how I interact with the crowd from an improvisational standpoint. But I don't think there's, I mean, Ari Shaffir to Mark Norman to Shane Gillis or any of those guys, like, they went on Rogan and Ari said just the nice thing, but he was like, TJ can go on stage with nothing, nothing in the holster, nothing in the chamber, and just go on forever. He just doesn't need to stop. He can kill and kill and kill. And I think that's true. And it's been a little frustrating that I haven't been recognized for that in a way where it's, I'm just like, I don't know, it's interesting. I feel like that doesn't really have... I don't know that has a ton of stickiness to it, in the sense that people come to the show and they're like, I'm going to come to... I feel in some ways I'm like a jam band in terms of a comedian, but I don't yet have, half of the audience seeing more than one show. And because if you saw 4 shows, they would all be different.
Right.
But I think that doesn't happen really, because I think at the end of one show people are like, that was amazing, but they've sort of had their fill, I guess. And then also I'm an expensive ticket. I'm one of the more expensive tickets in a comedy club world. And so and I'm always aware of that it's very expensive to see comedy when your other choices are free.
You're also just
things cost so much.
Yeah.
I mean,
but you're now putting yourself out there more as a comedian. So it's like people see you acting for so many years. Now you're like, no, I'm a stand-up and I'm really good at this. And I feel like you're going to become known for that. And people will start to expect that.
Yeah,
I mean, I've known it for years. And a lot of comedians have. But you know, you like you said, people will come to you from the movies and TV shows, but now you're starting to focus on stand-up all the time.
Which I'm very fortunate for too, that people come, because I have so many people say, I've never seen a stand-up comedy show, and my answer is always, isn't it amazing?
Yeah.
You should come all the time. Isn't it incredible? And people go, yeah, it's great. So I get to expose people to stand-up comedy because of that. But I think you're absolutely right. And I tell Kate, and I try and remind myself sometimes that your Mark Normans and your, you know, I call them the New York white guy mafia, but the people at Dan Soder, Sam Morril, it's like all these guys who are pseudo contemporaries of mine have been doing stand-up comedy on the road, just stand-up comedy for like 10 years more than I have. Because I was acting for 10 years and I would do stand-up when I could, but I was not able, and that got me in trouble too, because what I would do is I would get up at 5 a.m, because this work ethic is really how I have become as successful as I am. I just have one of the strongest work ethics of anybody. I always say to young comedians, if you look at somebody, just work harder than everyone else around you. And if you see somebody who you kind of want what they have or what they're doing, then study the way that they're working and try and incorporate that into how you work. It's very important. But I would get up at 5 a.m, go onto the set of Silicon Valley, shoot a 14-hour day or a 16-hour day, and then when everybody else went home to study the script for the next day or decompress, I would go eat at home, maybe spend a little time with Kate or whoever I was dating, and then I would go out to open mics and shows. And I wouldn't do, you know, I was on television, so I wasn't doing like dinky open mics, although I did the open mic here after the show on Sunday. Yep.
Really?
Yeah, why not? And then
I love that.
And then I would go and I would do one show, ideally 2 shows. Then after the show, I want to hang out and talk shop, just like all stand-up comedians do. And then I would go home at 2 a.m, go to sleep, wake up at 5 a.m. again, go read the script at a table read cold, because I always do better with a cold read. And then I would not memorize any of my lines, and I would just go to my trailer, and then whenever they told me this is the scene that you're going to be doing, I would memorize those lines, kind of like cramming, like crash course for every single scene that I needed to do, and it worked. I would improvise. I'm better with the cold read. Even in college, I did better cramming for stuff than studying it over the course of several weeks or whatever. And I was doing that for so long that it was really, as my wife said, I love this new expression. So you got to stop burning the candle on both ends. You're going to end up just being the middle of a candle. You're just going to be a candle middle candle. But I was doing that really consistently, and it was a lot. It was too much. And so sometimes what we say is if I had kept going at that pace, I might be dead. I kind of believe that because of the brain injury and because of that thing. But yeah, and I was sort of using alcohol or nitrous oxide or indica marijuana to try and slow everything down, but I was still working at that pace. So that's a very difficult alchemy to try and figure out and make sure for it to work, sort of. But I was always doing stand-up when I was acting, but I wasn't touring. I didn't have that. For 10 years, I was not headlining clubs every single weekend, and that's what all of those guys were doing. And so after a while, that really, you get that mastery, and I've only been a full-time stand-up comic for 7 years, but 2 of those obviously were in the pandemic. So really only 5 years. And I didn't tour in stand-up for like 8 months. But for about a year after that, everybody was like, what the fuck are we doing? Do I talk about the pandemic? Do I not talk about the pandemic? You know, the audiences for the first 6 months or 4 months were just very sparse. It was a very thin amount of people that were coming to shows. So I kind of have only been touring as a full-time comedian for 5 years. And I've been doing comedy. I've been a stand-up comedian since 2003, at least. So I've done it over 2 decades.